Check this out, y'all. Live and direct.
From the Whiskey 61 Lounge, it's Mississippi's only food sports show on the airwaves. We're the only World Food Championship host in the state. This is the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds.
And we have a special guest in the BankPlus studio. Brad Logan, Ole Miss insider, friend of the show, friend of mine, joining us. He's in the area for business and said, hey, man, can I come up and hang out in the studio and see y'all? And so he is here today. We've got all kinds of topics going on. We'll get into these a little bit later. MSU baseball meltdown. What's the latest on Hunter Elliott? If he's okay, how long do you shut him down? If he's not, devastating blow for Ole Miss. Mississippi State went through it last year with Landon Sims. MSU hoops, still on the bubble. Didn't quite pull it out last night, but they're still, if they beat A&M on Saturday, they're right back in it at home. And then the Ole Miss QB1 race. But we want to welcome in Brad Logan to the studio. Brad Logan, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, Bo. This is a beautiful facility. It's really nice to get to be here, coming on the air for years and years, and it's nice to get to see you and the rest of the crew in person. Beautiful facility here, and, you talked about a lot of topics there, and, we could start at a lot of different places, but at the end of the day, man, it's the great state of Mississippi, and, I see these helmets, and you've got Ole Miss, Mississippi State. I think there was a tweet out earlier about Southern Miss and the attendance for college baseball. It's kind of the mecca, and it's something that you and I get up and, we live and breathe it, man. And it's a great state, just loaded with college talent. We saw the NFL just the other day about how many players from the state of Mississippi, just the natives that played in the Super Bowl. I'm just so proud to be from Mississippi, and this is kind of the mecca here in the capital city here.
Yeah, well, thank you for your comments on the studio. We put this thing together, and it exceeded my expectations with what people did. And I had to get out of a small radio booth, Brad. Love it, but I needed some room. I'm already claustrophobic. And know this. Those radio booths aren't real big. Yeah. So
I encourage everybody, if you're listening, to watch the replay and have a chance to see how cool a studio this is. I visited with you before we came on today, and I talked about how it's got a Scott Van Pelt, a Dan Patrick type feel to it, and kind of a home field, and that's kind of what you want. I mean, that's where you watch games. Over straight ahead, there's a huge monitor that's got football and the talking shows now, and it's just a really nice setup. And this is what it's all about, and a really cool setup.
Brad Logan with us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Were you able to make it to Oxford over the weekend at all?
I had a chance to watch the basketball game. Did not watch baseball, but obviously everyone out there saw the monster crowds, and it's set up to be a pretty good season. We've had some conversations with some folks that they cover it pretty in depth, and they talk about, obviously you're fresh off that national championship season, but what you're looking for is pitching talent. You talked about at the top of the segment here. The question is Hunter Elliott, and there was some tightness in that throwing forearm. That's obviously cause for concern. Mike Bianco talked with the media at the conclusion of the Arkansas State game and let everyone know that they became aware of that over the weekend. He has since thrown since that tightness, felt pretty good, but they've sent those MRIs off to make sure that it's nothing significant. Blake made a good comment during the break is, you want to get him back out there if there's nothing wrong. But I think Mike's just making sure, because let's be honest, Bo, if Hunter Elliott can't go, that's a huge dynamic for that pitching staff for Ole Miss for how this team is going forward. Just like Mississippi State off their national championship. You look at the schedule of both those programs. Mississippi State's schedule last year, Bo, in the SEC was brutal. Yeah. The same thing for Ole Miss this year. Their first 4 or 5 series are just absolute juggernauts. So, setting up to where Ole Miss has a pretty talented team, but the problem is you need to know where that pitching depth is. Now, I like their depth pretty good, but you like to know who your starters are. And if there are questions with Hunter Elliott, that's obviously going to put a damper on the season for sure if he can't go.
Yeah, that's because Landon Sims and Hunter Elliott can beat anybody in the country.
No doubt.
Even when you got good other starters, that's not always the case.
Yeah.
But when you rolled out Hunter Elliott or Landon Sims, you were like, oh, yeah, they can beat anybody. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Vanderbilt, Tennessee, whoever comes out of the West Coast, whoever you run into in a regional super.
Yeah.
Those not all your starters can necessarily do that. So the last couple of years, you've done a lot for WJTV.
Yes, here in town, and it is
but on campus.
Right. Yeah, we do kind of a game
cool.
day type atmosphere.
Yeah.
We mentioned Samara Terry, who Samara's done a phenomenal job. I know she's been here in studio before. She left here and went to News Channel 3 in Memphis.
Very talented.
Really blown up. She's now in Nashville, a much larger
Covering
market.
the Titans.
She did. And I've had a chance to visit with her some, and she is really doing a phenomenal job. So, but yeah, Noah Newman kind of got me going a couple years ago at WJTV. And really, it's really blossomed since then. And we have a really nice setup on campus. Blake Levine, of course, is a sports director now. Yeah. And Blake and I have a segment, and then it actually turned out we've done some things when Ole Miss went to the Sugar Bowl a couple of years ago, and we were on site there in New Orleans. So just kind of scratching the TV itch just a little bit. We were on the field. We did the pregame on the field.
That's awesome
for the Sugar Bowl.
How cool was that?
It was really neat. And I've also went with the WJTV to when we did the Music City Bowl. With Mississippi State in Louisville, if you'll remember. That was a couple of years ago as well. So been on site at a number of these places and just really enjoy TV. I'm really excited about the future, what that brings. And, we're talking to some different companies now about the possibility of maybe expanding some roles there. So really excited about that.
You just mentioned the Music City Bowl. Joe Moorhead is Blake's favorite coach.
Joe Moorhead, by the way, Blake, who just got a big extension.
Winners win, Brad. That's all I got to say.
This guy will get real red in the face when we start talking about Joe Moorhead.
To be fair, Joe Moorhead, the only coach in Mississippi State history fired after winning the Egg Bowl.
2-0, by the way. 2-0 against the Rebels.
So
and David Cutcliffe, maybe, I don't know if there's another one, Cut won 3 in a row and got fired, which is still kind of unbelievable today when you kind of think about it.
Yeah.
Right?
The Egg
Moorhead
Bowl,
2 in a row.
Just an incredible series of events that have happened with that Egg Bowl. If you remember, Blake, the year that Joe got fired, as he's walking off the field after winning,
yes,
the year before, by the way, the year before in Oxford, gets into it with somebody,
associate AD or something like that.
I'm not sure who it was, but gets into it on the field, wins the fan base over. Everybody, that's my guy.
Yeah.
And then they win the next game after Ole Miss, Matt Corral come down the field in just heroic fashion, and then we have the leg incident, only Egg Bowl, by the way. we have the leg incident, and then
fake pee.
And then the missed extra point. Just stuff you could not write.
Sometimes I wonder if we work in the WWE. I mean, legitimately, like
I don't know if
wrestling.
WWE creative could come up with anything as good as that.
No, I agree with that. That's next level.
Oh my gosh, SEC football is WWE. It's got a lot of flavor.
It's a lot. What makes WWE so good? I never thought I would talk about this, but what makes it so interesting to me is their storylines. They're creative, and if you look at Ole Miss and Mississippi State, there's plenty of storylines back and forth. The recruiting this year, by the way, I thought was really good in the state of Mississippi. We almost saw the days of old about Ole Miss and Mississippi State going after the same players once again.
Right.
And I can say this, and we've seen the pictures from Lane Kiffin where he's been. Tweeting out the locations of the airplane. He's all over the state of Mississippi. And this particular 2024 class in Mississippi, as I know your recruiting folks have been on here, have said, absolutely loaded.
Yeah.
And so the state of Mississippi is slammed. Maybe one of the best crops of talent in our program's history.
It is a very loaded class.
Yeah, should be a good one. You talked briefly, I wanted to comment on this just a moment ago. You talked about basketball. I thought Mississippi State last night, Bo, plenty of opportunities to win that game.
Yeah.
And look, I think, and this won't give me any favors with Ole Miss fans, I think Chris Jans is a phenomenal basketball coach.
He is.
I think he's a really good recruiter, and he is absolutely going to turn that program on its head. As long as they continue to get support from the athletic department, throw a little more money in the hump, kind of make it more attractive for the fans. We saw the Kentucky game. Fans will come.
Yeah.
Fans will come.
And that renovation is in process right now.
Right.
It should be completed, Blake, I think, by next, October 15th or November 1.
Last night, though, a big opportunity, I think, missed by Mississippi State. I think, honestly, beat Missouri on the road. It's a big quad, whatever win. On the road, I think that easily gets Mississippi State to maybe the last 4 in or maybe the first 4 out. Now it's kind of.
I think they would have been the last 4 in.
I do too.
And so now they got to beat an A&M team that's red hot.
Just beat Tennessee last night
Yeah.
at home. Tennessee's kind of off and on.
Well, they're sliding, but their RPI is insane.
Right, it
in
is.
their net rankings.
Right.
So I figure they'll be fine.
Yeah, but I think
Buzz
what
Williams, though. How about that? How about what he wear?
he's the only coach left that will
vest.
wear.
He
the
always
suit.
has a vest
Yeah.
and you've got a button down on, but
He's
he
got
puts
the
a
vest on,
and the tie.
Yeah,
Most guys today are just wearing pullovers like I've got on.
Right.
Jans, Kermit,
yeah,
Cal, kind of the whole Barnes.
yeah.
Most of them are what Jans told me that he felt like he wants to wear suits, but his assistants want to wear the pullovers.
Yeah.
But that makes sense, right? When you're an assistant, you got to sit there and think, hey, I may only have, and this is a lot, I don't have this many, 6 or 7 suits. And I got to rotate them. I want to look good and so on. But if you're just wearing the cool gear, you just, I'll take the blue one or the red one or the white one if you're Ole Miss, maroon, white, or black if you're Mississippi State. I hadn't thought about it. He's like, I like getting dressed up.
What I like about Jans is he's got a lot of Jay Wright about him. And what I mean by that is down the stretch in the game against Ole Miss this past Saturday in Oxford, Mississippi State did not shoot the ball well at all. I think, a couple out of 21 from 3. So, Ole Miss played so hard defensively. And that's one thing Ole Miss, they haven't won a lot of games, but every single game, I tweeted this out, they're playing their tails off. And they play hard. They're just not very talented. At the end of the, kind of coming towards the end of the game, this game's getting close, and Jans is just kind of just surveying the land, not out of just jumping up and down and going crazy. His assistants are not. They're coaching.
Right.
Hey, take it right over here and let's get the timeout. You can tell he's just standing there. He's just surveying the land. And Kermit, at the end of the game, he talked about, if you'll remember, Bo, the last play of the game, Ole Miss just took it down the shot clock, just fell down, whatever. Kermit had a timeout. And he admitted, he says, and Kermit is always a good coach out of a timeout. He always sets up great plays. That's one thing that he's always been synonymous for. And he admitted during the press conference, I did not call a timeout because Chris does such a good job defensively out of timeouts. Right. He said, I just wanted to give it to Morrell and let him go.
Right.
And so
that makes sense. It does.
That's a lot of respect, I think, for Kermit, who's been in the game a long time. Obviously he's had his struggles this year, but, to have that type of respect for Chris, I think says a lot about the future of the program at Mississippi State. And, while we're talking basketball, I don't think you can say enough about what Coach Yo's doing at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Took South Carolina to the brink, had plenty of opportunities. I don't think Carolina played particularly great in Oxford, but, 6,000 people, Bo, came to see a women's basketball game in Oxford, and that's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
And it's the highest amount of people the most of people that have been to a women's game in Oxford in the program's history.
Really?
That says a lot. The team hasn't been a number 1 team since 1977 in Delta State. That's how long it's been. And they had an opportunity.
How about that, Blake?
Had an opportunity.
That was Steve Clark or Lloyd Clark.
Lloyd Clark.
Yes,
sir. Native of
He's
Vicksburg, Mississippi.
Lloyd Clark.
Won a lot of games.
He was so. I don't even know, Blake. Are Purcell and Coach Yo? Are they in? Are they out? Do you know, Brad? I don't even know if they're in the tournament. I'm too locked into some of the other things.
I don't know about Mississippi State. I feel very confident that Ole Miss is in.
They're in. Okay, got
it.
She's done a hell of a job.
Their losses have been top 10 losses.
Got it.
They lost to a Utah team that was top 10. They lost to number 1 Carolina. They lost to Tennessee on the road. So, the only bad loss is to Johnny Harris and Auburn on the road. That was not a good. Although Coach Harris, as many people know in Mississippi, she took over a terrible program at Auburn.
Right.
And she's kind of turning that thing over down on the plain. So,
that's interesting. Cohen didn't hire her.
And now he inherited
when Schaefer left and went with Nikki McCray, and now he inherits her at Auburn, and we'll see if she can get it done. That's
another
story.
Is this an analyzing John Cohen's hiring show? Because that could get real
Well,
nasty.
since we're talking Auburn, I mean, we went all this way and hadn't talked about Auburn's new head football coach.
Hugh Freeze, who you and I are more than familiar with.
Very familiar, and
It's a home run hire. You can say what you want about Freeze.
you can
He's going to win.
look at the
He's going to
recruiting.
do well.
I mean, Auburn has always been a program that can recruit. You give them, all of a sudden now you have Hugh Freeze, who has always been a dynamic recruiter. Say what you want. He recruited I'll go ahead and say it. He recruited the best class in the history of Ole Miss football back in, what was it, Bo? 2012, 13?
Yeah.
With the Kimdiche brothers.
There's no question. I mean, Tunzel, Kimdiche, and
Treadwell.
Connor, and Treadwell, and Ingram. Those five alone were unbelievable.
They were.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them were first-round picks except Connor, and that's only because he hurt his knee. So that's remarkable.
Really is. And all of them had more than a cup of coffee in the league.
Yeah. Well, now Ingram, Jacksonville has resurrected his career.
Right.
And we know what Evan did with Trevor Lawrence this year.
Mm-hmm.
So back to Hugh Freeze.
Right.
I think he wins big.
I think he does too, and I think he's going to. And looking at this thing much higher than just the state of Mississippi, how much pressure is Hugh Freeze going to put on Nick Saban when he beats him?
A lot this year. I think that he could beat him. It's at Auburn this year. Can you imagine the pregame speech
from Hugh Freeze
when
Auburn and Alabama play in the Iron Bowl in Auburn, Alabama? I hope there's a camera there. I want to see it.
Surely there will be. I think they've got a chance to have a good year, even in year one.
Who's going to play quarterback?
Now, that's a great question. Some of the Auburn guys say that he's still going to go in the portal this summer.
So you don't think it's Robbie Ashmore?
Well, maybe. It may be. I think that kid showed some flashes of being pretty good. I mean, of having some skills when everything was burning down around him. If anybody can get, look what he made Bo Wallace into. I don't think he gets enough credit from the Ole Miss fan base. He was an unbelievable college player.
He really was.
At quarterback. It's that simple. He made plays all the time. And so, yeah, look, man, Freeze, it's not good for Mississippi State and Ole Miss. So.
I don't think so, because of his ties to Mississippi. He's going to have a staff that understands the state of Mississippi, the recruiting landscape.
You want a Brian Harsin at Auburn.
Yeah, you do. You really do. And you want someone that's not going to recruit the state of Mississippi very hard.
Right.
Because, the state is going to be slam-packed this year. And
Kirby's coming in. Saban's coming in.
Yeah.
Freeze is coming
Brian
in.
Kelly's coming in. Yeah.
And
Jimbo's
Jimbo.
been here.
And Jimbo, yeah. Jimbo's already got that
McKinley
connection
Jackson.
with the George County, yes. Yeah. And George County,
he
Coach
went
James
because of the
Ray's got a
12th
couple of good players this year, and I think one of them, I think a player from George County went to Mississippi State this year. I don't remember who it was, but yeah, it's always going to be a dogfight. And now all of a sudden you've got a dynamic recruiter in Hugh Freeze, who's going to have a good staff, have to fight all of the Ole Misses of the world, the Tony Hughes of the world, Tony is the best in the business.
Yeah. Well, Derek Nix and Tony Hughes
they're
are
two
phenomenal.
of the best in the business.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But now they've got to fight Brian Kelly. They've got to fight Jimbo. They've got to fight now Hugh Freeze on top of Nick Saban selling their story. And
but I'll tell you we got a couple minutes here. You had a Hall of Fame coach pass away in Starkville.
Right.
And you have a brand new head coach he's never been a head coach. That's and two new coordinators.
But let's peel the onion back just a moment. Okay, he's a brand new head coach, but what has he done already? Look what he did with Brad Peterson.
Yeah.
Look where he put Brad, exactly where he needed to be.
Chief of staff.
What did he do with his coordinators? I mean, he got on the phone. He worked. I mean, I like how he set up his recruiting class with Coach Hughes really going to war for him. They stove off Ole Miss. They stove off LSU, Alabama. They did what they needed to do in the portal. Right. I like what he's doing from an operation standpoint.
Yeah.
And I think I can't say it enough. understanding the state of Mississippi. And Mississippi State's always done a really good job, but they've also focused much more on the state of Mississippi recruiting.
Sure.
But when he put Brad Peterson in that position over Mississippi, over recruiting, and then you've got Tony Hughes, that's a pretty good defense mechanism for a Hugh Freeze.
Yeah.
For a Derek Nix, who Lane Kiffin has made it very apparent he's going to go hard in Mississippi this year.
Oh, yes, he has. I mean,
you know,
Derek's already wildly successful here, but you're right. Kiffin and them are locked in. And Auburn tried to steal him.
They did.
Credit to Ole Miss and Kiffin.
Right.
That Derek decided to stay because they offered him a hell of a package.
Right.
Derek Nix to go down to Auburn. Blake?
Before we go, just since we haven't talked to you about this, Pete Golding, was that a upgrade for Lane Kiffin, or was that a scapegoat move to make up for losing Ford in the year?
No, I mean, I absolutely think it was an upgrade. I think what Pete has done at Alabama is phenomenal. I think his recruiting chops in the state of Mississippi, I appreciate the question because I think bringing Pete on is going to add even more credibility to Ole Miss on the recruiting trail. We saw that in this cycle of what he brought to the table. And I think more importantly, I think he's going to be an upgrade from Chris Partridge, who is the outgoing defensive coordinator. We could argue about what Golding did or didn't do for Saban at Alabama, but I think at the end of the day, it's absolutely an upgrade, and I think he's going to make a big difference in Oxford.
It'll be interesting to see, and also what Kiffin does this summer. You know, as far as that Ole Miss defense, and of course, you and I are going to be all over. Whatever happens with Spencer Sanders and
that's
Jackson
fascinating.
Dart.
We talked about that during the break. I don't know, Bo. I mean,
I don't either. I mean, you would think, like you said, Sanders didn't transfer in to play backup, but Jackson Dart sitting there thinking, I had a really good year last year.
And here's the fly in the ointment to me is Walker Howard, the 5-star quarterback, son of Jamie Howard, who played at LSU, legacy player, who's sitting in the wings ready to go. So it's not like Jackson Dart can say, okay, all right, look, I'll share time with Spencer Sanders. We'll do some package stuff, but this is my team going forward. That's not the case anymore.
No.
And you talked about You talked about Hugh Freeze and what he did with Bo Wallace. Oh, by the way, one of the best quarterbacks in the South, Walker White, out of the state of Arkansas, signed or committed with Auburn. Committed to Auburn. Committed to Hugh Freeze. A legacy player. His dad played at the University of Arkansas. Ole Miss was in on him very hard in Walker White. 4-star quarterback. Can sling it. Played at Little Rock.
Okay.
Committed to Auburn.
Really?
So it's just so many cogs in the wheel with Hugh Freeze, and it's just phenomenal to see what he's been able to do in that short period of time.
Yeah, no doubt. It was good to see you, man.
Awesome studio. Thanks, Bo.
Well, thanks for coming in. Brad Logan joining us on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We're going to turn right around here and interview Tanner Allen. How about that in a few minutes? I think he had a little bit of an impact on college baseball in the state of Mississippi. So TA will drop by, and we'll go ahead and podcast that, maybe play a little bit of it tomorrow or Friday. Brad Logan in the house. Thanks for listening. If you missed anything, you can go to Apple Podcast or Spotify and search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds. Hope you have a great day. Lunch is brought to you by Bulldog Burger in Ridgeland, in Starkville, and in Tupelo. We'll tell you about a tap takeover tomorrow.